The old city of Veliko, Tarnovo lay beneath the pale light of dawn, its cobbled streets still whispering the memories of forgotten battles. Mist curled over the Yentra River, weaving through the arches of the stone bridge like restless spirits searching for peace. Elena, a young woman with auburn hair and eyes that mirrored the depth of the forest, carried a lantern close to her chest as she walked through the narrow alleys. Her heart beat in uneasy rhythm, for she had received a letter written in hurried strokes. It warned of an ancient secret buried beneath the fortress of Tsarovets, one that should never be disturbed. At the top of the hill, the ruined towers of the medieval stronghold loomed like dark sentinels. She paused, the silence pressing heavily against her ears. Only the faint cry of a raven broke the stillness. Waiting for her near the gates was Stefan, a scholar whose knowledge of Bulgarian legends had earned him both admiration and suspicion. He greeted her with a grave nod, clutching a leather-bound book to his chest. "Elena," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of sleepless nights, "what we seek may change everything, but it will demand more from us than we can imagine." They entered the fortress, the echo of their steps swallowed by stone corridors that smelled of dust and time. With every turn, the air grew colder, and the flame of Elena's lantern flickered as though struggling to survive. Then, deep within the passage, they reached a sealed wooden door marked with carved symbols. Stefan's hand trembled as he brushed away centuries of dust. The markings glowed faintly, as if awakened by their presence. "Elena," he whispered, his eyes wide with both fear and wonder. "This is no mere legend. The door is alive." The lantern dimmed further, the silence deepened, and a slow creak echoed through the fortress walls. Something behind the door stirred. The sealed wooden door breathed faintly, its carving shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Elena felt her lantern grow heavy in her hand, as if unseen hands sought to snuff out its light. Stefan opened the leather-bound book, turning fragile pages filled with obscure runes. His voice trembled as he read aloud, the words foreign yet resonant with the air around them. The fortress stones seemed to lean closer, listening. Suddenly, a gust of icy wind swept through the corridor. The symbols on the door pulsed, and faint voices drifted through the cracks. It was not one voice, but many, whispering in unison, carrying fragments of sorrow and warning. Elena pressed her palm to the wood. The whispers sharpened into a single phrase that chilled her to the bone. "Do not awaken the guardian." Before she could recoil, the door shuddered and released a low groan. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the ground beneath them trembled. Stefan seized her wrist, pulling her back. "Elena, it is responding to you," he said, his voice urgent yet reverent. "You are the key." Fear and determination warred within her chest. She knew the letter had summoned her here, for a reason, but she could not yet grasp the magnitude of what lay behind the door. The whispers rose into a storm, filling the fortress halls with chilling echoes. Then, with a violent crack, the wooden barrier splintered open, revealing a stairwell that spiraled into darkness. Without a word, Stefan lit a torch, its flame casting a defiant glow. Elena's breath caught as they stepped forward, descending into the unknown. The staircase coiled downward like a serpent carved into the heart of the earth. The air grew thick, heavy with the smell of damp stone and something older, something that tasted of iron and ash. Their footsteps echoed endlessly. Elena felt as though they were being swallowed by the mountain itself. Shadows stretched across the walls, shifting in unnatural ways, sometimes forming fleeting silhouettes that vanished when she blinked. "Legends speak of a hidden sanctum," Stefan murmured, his eyes fixed on the torchlight. "A place where the last Tsars concealed a power too dangerous to wield." Few believed it real. Elena glanced back. The stairway behind them had disappeared into utter blackness. There would be no turning back. At last, the steps ended at a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high above, covered with mosaics depicting battles and celestial patterns. In the center of the hall stood a stone pedestal, upon which rested a silver vessel shaped like a chalice. But it was not the chalice that froze Elena's breath. Around the walls, sealed within niches, stood statues of warriors clad in armor. Their expressions were fierce, their hands gripping weapons. Yet something about them seemed alive, as if they were watching, waiting. "Elena," Stefan whispered, "these are no statues. They are guardians." As his words lingered, one of the warriors' eyes flickered with a dim light. Stone cracked softly, like bones waking from slumber. The chamber grew colder. The silence was about to break. The first guardian moved, stone shoulders grinding as flakes of dust rained from its armor. The echo of its awakening rolled through the chamber, stirring the other figures one by one. Elena clutched Stefan's arm, her pulse hammering. "What have we done?" The guardian's eyes glowed with the same light that had shimmered on the door. Their steps were slow, deliberate, resonant with ancient power. Stefan lifted his book, chanting phrases of protection, yet the guardians advanced, weapons raised. The ground vibrated with each step they took. "Do not fear them," Stefan cried above the roar of stone. "They respond not to blood, but to truth." Elena's voice trembled, yet something inside her compelled her forward. She stood before the nearest guardian and raised her lantern. "We seek only the truth," she declared, her words firm despite her fear. The guardian paused, its weapon lowered slightly. The light in its eyes flickered uncertainly, as if testing her resolve. But behind them, the chalice pulsed with a glow of its own. The vessel was awakening, its silver surface rippling like water. The guardians turned as one, their attention shifting to the chalice. A low hum filled the chamber, and the air quivered. "Elena," Stefan whispered, his voice breaking, "the chalice is the heart. And it is calling for you." The guardians knelt, their weapons laid upon the ground. The chamber bowed in silence. And in that silence, Elena knew her journey had only just begun. Elena approached the pedestal, her steps measured, yet drawn by an invisible force. The chalice shimmered brighter as she neared, its light spilling across her face like liquid moonlight. She reached out, her hand trembling. The instant her fingers brushed the vessel, the mosaics on the ceiling blazed with fire. Images of battles, kings, and forgotten rituals danced across the chamber in a kaleidoscope of color. A voice filled her mind. It was neither male nor female, but carried the weight of centuries. "You are chosen, bearer of balance. The power must not fall to those who hunger." Elena gasped, clutching her chest as visions overwhelmed her. She saw kingdoms rise and fall, rivers turning red with war, and shadows devouring entire villages. But she also saw a glimmer of hope, a light piercing the darkness, held by hands that looked like her own. Stefan steadied her as her knees weakened. "What did you see?" he asked, though his eyes already held fear. "The chalice shows the future," she whispered, "and it is asking me to decide." The chamber quaked, dust raining from the ceiling. The guardians rose again, this time not as protectors, but as judges. Their eyes burned brighter, and the air rang with their silent demand. Elena held the chalice close. She realized the choice was not whether to wield its power, but whether to survive it. The guardians circled Elena and Stefan, their movements slow, deliberate, suffocating. Each step tightened the space around them, pressing them into the heart of the chamber. "Elena," Stefan urged, "the chalice recognizes you. Only you can command it. But beware. Legends say the vessel binds itself to the soul of its bearer. It does not serve, it consumes." Her grip tightened. The silver shimmer seeped into her skin, crawling like frost across her arm. The chalice was not merely an object, it was alive, and it was hungry. Visions returned in flashes. A city in flames. A river of light swallowing the darkness. Children laughing in fields of green. The images collided, too fast, too violent. She screamed, dropping to her knees. The guardians stopped, silent observers of her torment. Stefan crouched beside her, torn between fear and loyalty. "You must master it," he pleaded, "or it will master you." Elena lifted her head, her eyes reflecting the same silver glow as the chalice. Her voice, when she spoke, carried an echo not her own. I am not its prisoner. I am its bearer. The chamber shook violently. Cracks split the walls, and water began seeping through the stone. The fortress itself seemed unwilling to contain the awakening power. The time to choose had come. As the chamber crumbled, Stefan's face twisted with desperation. He seized Elena's wrist, his grip iron tight. You do not understand, he shouted above the roar. I brought you here because I knew the chalice would answer only to you. But it is not yours to keep. It is mine to command. Elena's breath caught. Betrayal seared hotter than the silver light crawling through her veins. She pulled back, but his grip tightened, his eyes burning with obsession. The chalice will give me the power to restore what was lost, Stefan cried. With it, I will unite Bulgaria under one rule again. No more chaos, no more weakness. The guardians stirred, their eyes flaring as if judging his words. Elena fought against his hold, her voice steady despite the storm around them. This power was never meant for domination. It was meant for balance. But Stefan tore the chalice from her grasp. The instant his fingers closed around it, a scream ripped from his throat. Silver fire surged up his arm, devouring him from within. The guardians advanced, their weapons raised. The chamber thundered with fury. And Elena realized the chalice was choosing once more. Stefan collapsed, his body writhing as the chalice burned him from the inside out. His screams echoed until they became silence, leaving only the glow of silver ash where he had stood. The chalice hovered above the pedestal, freed of mortal hands. The guardians turned to Elena, their eyes piercing her soul. One by one, they lowered their weapons and knelt. The voice returned within her mind. You resisted ambition. You bore the weight of truth. The balance must endure. The chalice descended gently into her palms once more. Unlike before, the weight was bearable. Its light no longer clawed at her, but flowed through her veins with a steady rhythm. The chamber stabilized. Cracks sealed. The mosaics above shimmered with scenes of peace instead of war. Yet Elena knew this was not victory. It was inheritance. The chalice was now bound to her, and its burden would follow wherever she went. She turned from the guardians, their kneeling forms fading back into silence. Stefan was gone. Only she remained to face what lay beyond. The stairwell wound upwards, each step heavier than the last. Elena carried the chalice close, its glow subdued beneath her cloak. She feared not the darkness, but the weight of what awaited above. When she emerged from the fortress, the night sky stretched wide, stars burning brighter than she had ever seen. The Yentra River glimmered below, reflecting the celestial fire as though acknowledging her burden. The city of Veliko, Tarnovo, lay silent, unaware of the storm that had been quelled beneath its feet. Yet Elena could feel the shift in the air. The land itself seemed to breathe easier, as though freed from centuries of slumber. But she also felt eyes upon her. Not guardians, not Stefan, but something beyond. Forces that had long hunted the chalice would now sense its awakening. She whispered into the night, I will protect it, even if it costs me everything. The stars above gave no answer. Only silence greeted her vow. Days turned into weeks, yet Elena could find no peace. She traveled across Bulgaria, hiding the chalice, learning its secrets, feeling its power seep deeper into her soul. Sometimes, she heard Stefan's voice in the wind, not as an enemy, but as a warning. Sometimes, the chalice showed her visions of distant lands where shadows gathered, hungering for what she carried. She became a wanderer, a guardian not by choice but by destiny. Her name would fade from memory, her deeds hidden in whispers, yet her burden eternal. For the chalice was not a treasure. It was not a gift. It was a covenant forged in silence, bound to the hands of those strong enough to resist its temptation. And Elena walked on beneath the vast Bulgarian sky, lantern in hand, chalice against her heart, carrying a power that must never be claimed. The story of Veliko Tarnovo would remain in shadows, whispered only by the wind over the river, guarded by one woman whose fate was sealed the moment she touched the silver chalice.